My sister didn't just ruin my relationship. She dismantled it slowly, carefully, like someone who had done it before and knew exactly which pieces to pull first. The worst part was that no one around her ever called it what it really was. They called it heartbreak, trauma, sensitivity, anything that made her look fragile instead of dangerous. But I had seen the pattern too many times to believe that lie anymore. Mia didn't fall in love. She fixated. And when she couldn't have something, she didn't let it go. She rewrote reality until she became the victim, and everyone else became disposable. By the time she set her eyes on Ryan, I already knew what was going to happen. I just didn't know when she would make her move. So I did what I had always done. I controlled the exposure, kept him away from family gatherings, filtered what she could see, limited access in ways that felt paranoid but necessary. For 2 years, it worked, or at least I thought it did. We built something stable, something real, something that felt like it existed outside of her reach. And that was my first mistake. Believing that distance was enough to protect something from someone who had never respected boundaries in the first place. Because Mia didn't need proximity. She only needed opportunity. And the moment I mentioned my engagement in front of her, I saw it in her eyes. That quiet shift. That calculation. Like she had just been handed something she had been waiting for without even asking. That was the moment everything was already over. I just didn't know it yet. Mia had been rehearsing this kind of destruction long before Ryan ever existed. And the more I looked back, the clearer it became that nothing she did was impulsive. No matter how emotional she made it seem, every story she told about her one true love was just a cover. A narrative she used to justify behavior that would otherwise be impossible to defend. Ethan wasn't a lost soulmate. He was a one-night mistake that she turned into an identity. Something she could weaponize whenever she needed sympathy or access. I had seen her do it before. With friends. With strangers. Even with family members who trusted her enough to let their guard down. She studied people. Figured out what they needed. Then mirrored it just long enough to get close. And once she was inside their life, she started pulling things apart. Quietly. Subtly. Until everything collapsed, and she could step back and say it wasn't her fault. And every single time, my parents defended her. Not because they didn't see it, but because it was easier to manage the damage than to confront what she really was. They called her sensitive. Said she loved too deeply. Said she didn't know how to handle rejection. And in doing that, they gave her exactly what she needed. Permission. By the time Ryan came into the picture, she wasn't experimenting anymore. She was refining a method. And I was the only one who understood that the moment she became interested, the outcome was already decided, unless I changed the rules completely. If your own family erased you like this, would you walk away and start over, or come back one day and make them regret it, comment what you would do? The day I found them wasn't chaotic. It wasn't dramatic. It was worse. It was quiet in a way that made everything feel inevitable. I wasn't supposed to be there. That's what made it so precise. Like she had calculated the exact moment I would be least capable of interfering. I had a fever. My body weak. My head heavy. And still something didn't sit right when my friend mentioned Ryan's car near Mia's place. I remember the drive more than anything else. The way everything felt slightly unreal. Like I was already processing something I hadn't fully seen yet. When I opened the door, they didn't panic. And that was the moment that told me everything. If it had been a mistake, there would have been guilt, confusion, something chaotic. Instead, there was stillness, like they had already accepted the situation. Her head in his lap, his hand in her hair, the kind of intimacy that doesn't happen by accident. And then she spoke. Soft, controlled, almost rehearsed, saying she was sorry, saying he reminded her of Ethan. Like that explained anything. Ryan didn't even try to stop me. Didn't follow. Didn't fight for what we had built. And that silence was louder than anything he could have said. That was when something in me shifted. Not emotionally. But structurally, like a switch, turning off everything unnecessary. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't ask questions. Because none of it mattered anymore. In that moment, I understood something with absolute clarity. I hadn't just lost him. I had been removed from the equation. And if I wanted control back, I wasn't going to get it by reacting. I was going to get it by rebuilding the entire game from the ground up. Ethan was never supposed to be part of my life. At least not in the way he eventually became. But he was the only variable Mia had never successfully controlled. And that made him the perfect place to start. I reached out to him with honesty. Not emotion. Not manipulation. Just facts. And what I got in return was something I hadn't expected. Cooperation. The moment he showed me the messages Mia had sent him, the way she inserted herself into his life, even approaching his family with a fabricated story, I realized she hadn't just been destructive. She had been escalating. This wasn't about attention anymore. It was about ownership, about rewriting reality until other people believed it. That was the moment I decided this wasn't going to be revenge in the way people usually think of it. Loud. Explosive. Temporary. This was going to be controlled. Visible. And irreversibly. We planned everything. Not just appearances. But reactions. Timing. Context. Making sure every moment would land exactly where it needed to. When I walked into my parents' house with him, holding his hand, introducing him like it was the most natural thing in the world, I wasn't trying to shock her. I was forcing her to confront something she couldn't distort. Reality. Right in front of her. And for the first time in her life, she didn't have control over the narrative. What broke her wasn't the reveal. It was what came after. The slow, deliberate unraveling of everything she had built around herself. We didn't expose her all at once. That would have been too simple. Too easy to dismiss as conflict or misunderstanding. Instead, we let her react. And every reaction she had only confirmed what people had started to suspect. The posts. The messages. The emotional outbursts. Each one stripping away the version of herself she had spent years constructing. When Ethan responded publicly, calmly, clearly, denying everything she had claimed, it didn't just contradict her. It invalidated her entire identity. And that was something she couldn't recover from. Because Mia didn't know how to exist without a story where she was the center. Watching her try to regain control was almost clinical. The way she shifted between victim, anger, denial, desperation, cycling through behaviors that had worked before but failed now because the audience had changed. People were watching differently, questioning, connecting patterns they had ignored for years. And for the first time, the system that had protected her began to turn. Not dramatically, but gradually, like something breaking under pressure that had been building for too long. I didn't need to finish her, because by that point, she was already doing it herself, collapsing under the weight of a reality she could no longer manipulate. The final conversation we had wasn't explosive. It wasn't even satisfying in the way people imagine revenge should be. She looked smaller. Not physically, but structurally, like something essential had been removed. When she asked me why I was doing this, I didn't give her the answer she wanted. I didn't say revenge. I didn't say justice. I told her the truth, that I wasn't doing anything to her. I was just letting everything she had done exist without interference. And that was something she had never experienced before. Consequences without protection. I walked away after that. Not because I forgave her, but because there was nothing left to resolve. Ryan became irrelevant. Her version of Ethan disappeared. And for the first time, my life wasn't defined by what she might do next. Ethan stayed. Not as part of the plan anymore, but as something real that existed outside of everything that had happened. And that was the part Mia would never understand, because she never knew the difference between control and connection. She thought winning meant taking something from someone else. But in the end, All she did was reveal exactly who she had always been. And this time, no one was there to rewrite it for her. Be honest, is this revenge? Or justice? And would you have done the same in my position? Drop your answer below. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.